can be informative, influential, and inspirational. Also competitive and calculating.
It can be big or small, and sometimes it can be very powerful.
Do you know what it is? Hi, I'm Sid, and welcome to Democracy Rules. The "it" this time is a political party. A political party can be all of those things, but in its most basic form, it is a like-minded group that wants to control government by being elected to public office. Let's see how you define it.
Hi, I'm Shavela. Let's talk parties. Political parties, that is. What is the purpose of a political party?
Well, the purpose of a political party is to look at the needs and desires of the American people and try to give them a voice in the government.
A political party is like people trying to represent the country and getting votes to have a voice of the people.
I believe a political party is a group of people that have an idea of what they would like the government to be like.
Well, the political parties I know is the Democrats and the Republicans.
A group with a defined set of political beliefs.
Interesting thoughts there. There are many political parties around the world, and today we look at our own system. But before we do that, let's look at the overall purpose and philosophy of these groups. To get started, let's go to our resident expert, Senator Les Miller.
Thanks, Sid. A political party provides a framework where people can come together to work for common goals. I am very pleased to have Karen Thurman, chair of the Florida Democratic Party, with me today to talk about the party system. Chairwoman Thurman, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Senator.
Tell us why political parties exist.
Well, they started a lot longer than we've been around, but and weren't called what we know them as Democrats and Republicans today. It was the Whigs and the Tories. I think they exist so that people have the opportunity to identify with values and principles that they believe their party makes up. I think on the Democratic side, it's always been one of fairness and equity and dignity for the people that they serve. And they also have worked, I think, very hard on issues that creating a government that works for everyone and not just a few. And so I think that's why they've done that, but I think it's more so that people can identify. It's interesting, though, that over this last couple of years, there has been some breakdown a little bit to a point where there seems to be people identifying as kind of being independents, too. But they're coming back to the Democratic side over this next couple of years, I think. So,
what's your role as a state party chair?
My role is to run the party, and particularly to make sure that our finances are in good shape and that we're paying our bills like every good person should, and that to make sure that I'm providing the infrastructure. And when I say that, the infrastructure is what my local DECs, which are our Democratic Executive Committees at the local level, need to do and help people get elected. It is to provide things like a voter file. It is to supply them with information, with media techniques, training, precinct training, so that they can go out. I mean, one of the things that all political parties should be doing is meeting their voters, talking with the people that they're asking to become part of the election, and giving them the opportunity to talk back to us. So I do a lot of fundraising, though, too. It's a lot of it is just good old-fashioned fundraising and making sure that we have the infrastructure, both electronic and people infrastructure.
It's a big, important job. Why did you decide to do this?
Senator, probably because I believe that there needed to be a voice back in Florida, a voice from the Democrats. It had gotten pretty lopsided over the last couple of years, and I just believe that Democrats have a lot to offer. They bring balance back to our government that's so necessary to help get rid of what I think is the arrogance of what the current political situation is in Florida. And I've often said that, when and people will notice this around their areas over the years, watch the newspapers and see if there is, when there's an issue that's out there. If you're only getting one side of it, then you're not getting the full picture of an issue. And it's important that we have voices out there and that there's a balance in that picture.
Very good, very good. Sid, our country's first parties weren't called Democrats and Republicans, were they?
No, they weren't, Senator. America's first political parties emerged during the ratification of the Constitution in 1787. They were the Federalists who were for ratification and the Anti-Federalists who weren't. Led by James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, the Federalists were mostly rich and socially elite. They wanted a strong national government and a liberal interpretation of the Constitution. Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson led the Anti-Federalists. They were for the common people who wanted limited government and guaranteed personal liberties.
I look at that paper as the most fatal plan that could possibly be conceived to enslave a free people.
Of course, the Constitution was ratified and the parties continued. The Anti-Federalists became the Democratic Republicans, and in 1800, Thomas Jefferson was elected president. It was a big loss for the Federalists, and the party dwindled to nothing by 1816. In the mid-1820s, the Democratic-Republicans split. The Democratic faction forged ahead, and Andrew Jackson took the presidency in 1829.
Faction, a conflicting group.
The Whigs, or National Republicans, organized in the late 1820s, led by Henry Clay and Daniel Webster. Even though the party saw two weak presidents elected, it fell apart after the deaths of the party leaders. In the early 1850s, the Democrats split again. Several factions tried to establish themselves, and the Republican Party rose to the top in 1854. With the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860, the party became firmly entrenched. At the same time, remaining Democrats started a new push to rebuild their electorate, and in 1892, a Democrat, Grover Cleveland, was in the White House. The Democratic Party was back to stay.
Electorate, people eligible to vote.
Today, it's still a two-party system in America. Of course, there were and still are other smaller parties, but the Democrats and Republicans are the main players. Let's check in with Senator Miller for perspective on our political parties today.
Thanks, Sid. The Democrats and Republicans are the predominant parties, but other parties have emerged over time to address new concerns. Chairwoman Thurman, political parties shift over time as a country changes. What about the party's platform?
Well, it does. I mean, actually, the Florida Democratic Party does not necessarily take a platform. There would be a platform that will be placed through the convention process, and we'll see what they have actually a platform committee that does look at what the issues are that they're facing, and everybody has an opportunity to participate in that by putting resolutions in. Please consider this. From the Florida Democratic Party, one of the strengths that I think that we've tried to use over the last couple of years is people have elected both from the local level all the way to the Congress, and to me it seems that they who represent best know their constituency, best know their communities, best understand their needs and their concerns. And so what I try to do is work within the elected process to get an understanding of what you would like to be, what the electeds would like to have. An example was, I think, when you were the leader in the state Senate, we did the trip around the state with what the priorities were, which is sort of a platform, and it was about education, it was about health care, it was about making sure that people could stay in their homes. So it's working with those, because the electeds are our party in many ways.
How does the party assist Democratic candidates and voters? We've touched on that a little bit, but how does the party assist them?
Well, we've changed the way we've assisted, I think, over the last couple of years. A lot of it through technology. I mean, for the students out there that are looking at this, it's like everything. It's kind of evolved, but there are tools, I call them, in my toolbox. So, for example, the infrastructure that in the voter file, which can go into any community. We can tell, what kind of voters are out there. Are they really strong voters? Do they vote in every election? Do they just kind of show up at, presidential years? Do they do local, city councils or sheriff's races or, whatever other races? And then we go talk to them. And what we try to do is train. And I think some people will have had that experience this year as the presidential campaign rolled in here and began the work and organizing that they did. And it's going to be a lot of knocking and talking, but probably in targeted areas.
Yeah. We don't have much time left, but tell us how the party organizes on the local level.
The party organizes. It is a chair is selected. They have first of all, they have their own bylaws. They have a chair. They have their vice chair, secretary, treasurer. Then it is also through their state committee men and women elected, and then the precinct captains, which of course is something where people actually have to run for. They're on the ballot, and they have had to sign up that by a certain time, and then it becomes a party.
I wish we had more time, but thank you so very much for being here with us today. We appreciate it so very, very much. Thanks again.
Thanks, Liz.
Sid, a political party is a dynamic working machine. Give us some more information on the Big Two.
Thanks, Senator. I'm sure most of you have heard of the Democratic and Republican parties, but what do you know about them other than their name? Not much? Then it's time we all learn a little more.
I'm online at Democrats.org, the official website of the Democratic Party. There's tons of info here, but right now, let's find the Democratic Party platform. A platform is an official declaration of a party's beliefs, policies, and plans for the future. The Democratic platform includes defeating terrorism, creating good jobs, and protecting the environment. But you should read the entire document to see how they plan to accomplish these goals.
The Democratic Party was the first political party to create a party platform, adopting it in 1840, and that's a fact.
A new platform is adopted for every presidential campaign, but the party's founding principles remain the same. The Democratic Party represents working Americans to protect their interests and to guarantee personal liberties for all.
If you were writing a party platform, what would it include?
Each party has a symbol. For the Democrats, it's a donkey, and it's interesting how it came about. You can search donkey on Democrats.org for the whole story.
Democratic National Committee is the organization behind the party. The chairman and congressional committees work nationally, and state and local chapters bring the party home to the people.
Now let's look at the Republican Party. I'm online at GOP.com, their official website. GOP stands for Gallant or Grand Old Party. Those were nicknames given to the Republicans in the 1870s, but they aren't as commonly used today. Let's find the Republican Party platform. It is also new every 4 years, but they adopt party rules too. Both articulate the tenets of the Republican Party to be, quote, the party of liberty, the party of equality of opportunity for all, and favoritism for none, unquote.
Articulate, to express oneself. Tenet, a principle, belief, or doctrine of an organization.
The Republican Party platform highlights the war on terror, a competitive economy, and strong communities. But again, you need to read the whole platform for how they plan to do these things. The symbol of the Republican Party is the elephant, and it came after the donkey. Find out why at About the GOP, GOP History. The Republican National Committee coordinates party operations through a chairperson and congressional committees. State and local associations connect with local voters.
Well, that's the short course in Democrats and Republicans. Obviously, both parties believe their way is the best way for the country. The only way to know which party is right for you is to do the homework. Investigate both, talk to members, and critically evaluate the performance of elected officials.
What will you do to be prepared to vote?
If you're ready to get involved in the political process, check out the volunteer or internship web pages. You can always start locally. Let's go check in with Senator Miller for more ideas.
Thanks, Shavela. Joining me now is Ms. Carol Carter, State Committee Woman for the Hillsborough County Republican Party. Ms. Carter, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it very, very much. Tell us why you decided to get involved in the political process.
Well, actually, I had a social studies professor when I was in college say that if you're unhappy with what's going on, get involved, and get involved on a local level. So the first thing that I did was got involved in a local race for sheriff.
Mm-hmm. So what drew you to the Republican Party?
Well, I was drawn to the Republican Party because I think that party believes in the individual and the individual's ability to take care of themselves, and only takes care of those who can't, and also believes that the individual should take care of their own responsibilities. If you do something wrong, you admit it. So I just think that the party really is the little guy's party.
Now, I don't want to ask you anything wrong, but how long have you been involved in the process?
Oh, many, many years.
many years. Leaving it there.
About 40 years,
about
actually.
40 years. So you've been involved in the process about 40 years. That's outstanding, outstanding.
I was 10 when I started.
What are some of the important issues on the Republican Party, the Florida Republican Party platform?
Actually, we don't have a platform. We're not involved in issues. Our main goal is to find individuals that will make a good candidate and elect Republicans to office.
Why is it important to get young people involved in the political process?
Because it affects their lives, whether they don't really realize it, but they need to know that politics and elected officials affect every moment of their lives every day.
So every movement that whether it's local, whether it's state, whether it's federal, they have to realize that this is affecting them.
Right. They need to get involved on a local, from the courthouse to the White House level.
To the courthouse to the White House. Well, we're going to cut out here and go back to Shavela, and we'll be right back and ask some more questions. Shavela, back to you.
Thanks, Senator. Even though the United States technically has a two-party system, it doesn't mean there are only those two. In fact, there are more than 30 minor political parties identified in the U.S., but usually they are all lumped together and called third parties. Even though these third parties are much smaller than the big two, they can still have a big influence on the elections.
A famous third party in history was the Bull Moose Party in 1812. Here is the short story. Former Republican President Theodore Roosevelt wanted the party's nomination again. When he didn't get it, he simply left the party and became the candidate of his own Bull Moose Progressive Party. As a result, Republican voters were split, and Democrat Woodrow Wilson took the election. Third parties can do the same thing today, especially in close races, simply because they take votes away from the front runners.
Even though third-party candidates rarely win, they do bring attention to many important issues. Often, these issues end up incorporated into our social and political structure. If you're interested in looking at some of these third parties and what they support, check out this directory at politicsone.com. Some of the more influential third parties are the Libertarian Party, America's First Party, and the Green Party of the United States. You can check their websites for more information if you're curious.
It's hard to decide which party you might want to support, but it's time to start thinking about it because once you're eligible to vote, all the parties will be eager for you to join them. Let's go to Senator Miller one last time to find out how you can get involved.
You're absolutely right, Sid. Political parties need young people to join so they can be responsive to issues young adults care about. Ms. Carter, again, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. How does the Republican Party reach out to young people?
Well, we have several national organizations for young people. We have a Teenage Republican organization that organizes in the high schools. We have a pre-teenage group that organized in the middle schools. And the Teenage Republicans have quite an organization. We have young people come and address our quarterly Republican Party of Florida board meetings. Mm-hmm. And they're very, very impressive young people. They have their own state conventions and meetings. So these young people that belong to our Teenage Republicans get to know other teenagers around the state through this organization. Then we move on to what we have, a college Young Republican organization organized on our college campuses, and they're quite active group. They sometimes I have heard from some of the members that they've been kind of hard to get things done on the campus because they are Republicans, but the organization stays in there and fights it out. Then we move on to where we have a Young Republicans organization, which is more of a young professionals, but not more for students.
Very good.
But
very
we
good.
really believe that our youngsters and our teenagers are the future of not only the party, but of the country.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So how can young people decide which party is right for them?
Well, I think young people that are able to study and recognize principles and policies, they don't have a hard choice because they're looking at a party that is for the little guy and for the individual, and not massing a group. We don't categorize our party members into functions and factions and groups.
So you would basically say just pay attention to the platforms and listen and pay to what each party has to say. That piques their interest.
And to listen to and pay attention to what their local elected officials, be they Republicans or Democrats, are saying and doing.
Would you encourage young people to get involved in political campaigns as a way of finding out and getting more involved in what the parties are all about?
Oh, definitely. We have a lot of teenagers and high school students that participate in our campaigns. They work for individual candidates running for state, local, city, county, national offices, and we bring them in right into the office, and they do everything that the rest of us do.
Exactly right. Exactly right. What would you say to a young person who's interested in getting involved in a party locally?
I would say that what they need to do is they look at. I think the best way to get involved locally is not with the party per se for a young person, but with a candidate. Look at the people that are running and their values and what they feel, and pick a candidate and get to work, go to work in their campaign. And that candidate, when they win, will remember this person and help them along in the rest of their careers.
Yeah. One thing I know that when I was before I got involved and got elected, I got involved in some candidate races and thought maybe they would not appreciate it, but I found that they were very appreciative of persons getting involved in their races, and that's very, very important to do that. We appreciate you being here today. We appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedule to talk to our young people about political parties, and thank you so much for being with us. We do appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Sid, Shavella, the most important thing is to be knowledgeable of the choices in parties and candidates, and to vote.
Political parties are here to stay. So the more we know about them, the better decisions we can make as voters.
This is just a start. Now it's up to you to find out more.
Remember, democracy rules, and you rule in a democracy.
See you next time.
Democracy rules!